Location, location, location. How the city of Lebanon is cashing in on Boone County's multi-billion-dollar business boom. Plus, a new approach to attracting, retaining, and growing tech talent in Indiana. And the push to look beyond college graduates. And the state flexes its business muscle to the world. Takeaways from the Indiana Global Economic Summit and what it means for future growth. Inside Indiana Business starts now.
Hello and welcome to Inside Indiana Business. I'm Gerry Dick. A transformation in Boone County. Is Lebanon about to go from a bedroom community to boomtown? A lot of people think so after Eli Lilly and Company announced plans to invest $2.1 billion to build 2 manufacturing plants and add 500 jobs at Lebanon's new LEAP Innovation and Research District. The big investment is part of a larger vision that some suggest could create a research triangle of sorts in the heartland. With more on that growth, what it means and what's next, pleased to be joined by and welcome back to the show, Lebanon Mayor Matt Gentry. And Matt, again, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gerry.
Okay, a lot of people talk about change on the way with this big announcement, but really, and I know we had you on the show a couple of months ago, change has been happening. There's been a growth trajectory in Bloomington in Lebanon for some time.
Well, and all of Boone County, really. You
Yeah.
know, we're currently the fastest growing county in Indiana, and we've been seeing this coming for a long time, and we've been trying to lay out the groundwork to prepare for that going forward.
All right, let's talk about the big announcement just a couple of weeks ago, in a big week for Indiana as well. Eli Lilly and Company, 2 manufacturing plants in this new LEAP Innovation District, $2.1 billion investment, big investment, 500 jobs, high-paying jobs. The impact that you see this having?
It's transformational. You think about companies you want to have in your community, and Eli Lilly is the top of that list. They're a phenomenal company to work for. They make amazing products, but they're also the largest charitable benefactor in the state as well too. So we're thrilled to have that partnership and have that Eli Lilly presence in Lebanon soon. I
think an interesting piece of this is where they're going, this new LEAP Innovation District, if you will, which will be a sprawling development. How do you see that? I know Lilly, probably 2-3 years before these plants were operational, but how do you see that developing?
Well, I think this is a big vision of the state of, how do we compete on a national level for these large big investments, right? And they want shovel-ready type sites for this. And the state looked around and said, hey, we don't have any inventory. And they made a big effort and push to say, where can we go with this? And they, for a variety of factors, they chose Lebanon. And, we're working with that partnership with the state because we do see the benefits of the types of jobs, the level of investment, but also just the more attention it brings. I mean, I think if anybody looks at the research triangle out in North Carolina, you see what that's done for those communities out there and the types of great opportunities it provides for, people today, but then also generations in the future.
Talk about that, because I know Dave Ricks at the announcement kind of mentioned this research triangle idea, but you look at Purdue University, world-class institution, just up 65, you come down 65, you got Lebanon, your community, everything going on there, down to Indianapolis, the airport, world-class airport. So the ingredients seem to be in place for something like that. How can you, just kind of looking out into the crystal ball, what can we expect to happen as this park develops and the other developments happen as well?
Well, I think Eli Lilly is the first tenant in there, but I think when other companies look around and say, hey, where do we want to invest our capital? They're going to see, hey, Eli Lilly made the decision to go to Lebanon and be part of this LEAP district, and if we're going to make a decision on where to go in Indiana, I think that's going to be at the top of their list. So this will have ripple effects. We'll see additional residential needs, right? We'll see growth there. We'll see more restaurants, opportunities, amenities, things that people want from a community. They want to see more of those opportunities and, places that they want to live and raise their family.
Talent, obviously, is a huge issue, not only in our conversation, but around the state of Indiana. We mentioned Purdue, and I know as you and I were talking off camera, the need to make sure more of those Purdue graduates stay in Indiana and kind of feed that pipeline.
Yeah, this is a huge, I think, a problem that Indiana's trying to wrestle with. We have one of the great, as a Boilermaker, I'm a little biased, but we've got a great research university here in Indiana, and unfortunately we lose a lot of that talent goes out state, right? So how do we, as a state and as communities, how do we develop us into places that people want to stay and use those skills and make Indiana better and help make our entire nation better?
With growth comes challenges, no question
Always,
about it. So these are positive announcements, but real challenges when it comes to infrastructure and all kinds of things. What things are you concerned about? Are you worried about? Are you planning for as you look at this growth?
Yeah, we actually started planning for a lot of this 5 years ago when I first came in as mayor. We talked about, hey, how do we look at our thoroughfare plan? What's our road infrastructure look like? What do we have to do from a utility standpoint to be able to serve these types of areas? But then we also have to figure out how we have the conversation with the neighbors as well. How do we balance kind of that transition from a more of an ex-urban rural community to a part of the Indianapolis metropolitan area?
You talk about housing and just the residential piece of it, not just for Lebanon, but more broadly in Boone County there as you go down to Whitestown, and there was an announcement from McLaren, new facility there, Amazon, you got a lot of development going on there. The demand for housing obviously is going to be significant.
Yeah, I mean, if you, I'm looking for a house right now and can't find one either, right? So huge demand for housing in Boone County, so it's kind of just a matter of, we need the market to kind of catch up and for them, for the builders to meet that demand. And so we partner with the builders to try to find creative housing options of all different types, because my goal is to make Lebanon a community for all people of all walks of life. And we want to have housing at all different price points and all different levels.
What's been the reaction? Have you been getting calls or fielding any calls from folks after the Lilly announcement? Because it was such a big announcement, got a lot of attention. A lot of attention now beginning to shift to Lebanon?
Well, there's been the positive feedback has been there for sure, but then there's also negative feedback too, right? There's a lot of people that are in the area, that are nearby it, that have concerns, and we're going to have those conversations and work through that public process. But I would say, to me personally, the response has been overwhelming, and it's been overwhelmingly positive.
Yeah, all right. Mayor Matt Gentry from the city of Lebanon. A lot going on, and a lot will be going on, to be sure. Mayor, thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, it was 50 years ago, June 1972, that the game completely changed for female athletes. That's when Title IX went into effect, which made the playing field more even for women in sports. Women like Ball State Director of Athletics Beth Goetz, my next guest on the Business and Beyond podcast. Her roots are firmly in the Midwest. She grew up in St. Louis, where she played a number of sports. Soccer was the one that took her to college. She played on the pitch for Clemson, the women's soccer team in the mid-90s, something she says she wouldn't have been able to do without Title IX.
I love that we now have to educate our student athletes on what it used to be like. They don't think about a time where they wouldn't have had an opportunity to participate in sport at their high schools or certainly at the collegiate level. Yeah, certainly significant piece of legislation 50 years ago, and it's made a difference across so many spaces.
Much more with Ball State Director of Athletics Beth Goetz, including her take on the NCAA's name, image, and likeness policy. To check it out, just go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, TechPoint says now is the time to switch to skills-based hiring, how a new playbook could help resolve some of Indiana's biggest tech talent challenges. It's time now to go inside innovation. Well, we all know of the great struggle employers are experiencing in this very tight labor market. TechPoint, Indiana's tech ecosystem growth initiative, says it may have a solution. Here now to explain skills-based hiring is TechPoint Senior Manager of Career Pathways, Natalie Winsler. And welcome to the show, Natalie.
Thank you so much, Gary.
Okay, there's a statistic here that TechPoint, I think is very interesting, saying that Hoosier employers are currently excluding 95% or more of Hoosiers they're trying to hire. Shocking statistic. What do you mean by that?
Yes, that statistic is very dramatic. And here's how we get to the 95%. Nearly 80% of job postings require a degree on that job posting. The reality is only 23% of native Hoosiers have a bachelor's degree. So we're eliminating talent before we're even seeing them. And we know that Hoosiers have the skills. And when we think of the other elements that take people out of consideration, including saying you need a certain number of years of experience or biased language on job postings, it's again decreasing the talent pool that we know skilled workers have here in Indiana.
So when you're talking about skills-based hiring, give us the kind of the definition, if you will, of what that's all about.
Yes, we want to remove credential requirements whenever possible. That doesn't mean that we're diminishing the value of a college education. We know in Indiana, in order for us to remain competitive, we need to increase the college graduation rate. We want to be mindful of the majority of jobs just do not require a bachelor's degree. Then we also want to make sure that we're being very specific of what skills someone needs in that role. And inherently, we're reducing these biases in this process because we're focused on truly the success factors that someone needs to be in that role.
Yeah, and skills-based hiring has been around for a long time. This isn't a new concept. Other states have done it. I know you and I were talking off camera, Colorado, a state that's doing it. What makes Indiana's approach perhaps unique?
Yes, Indiana's approach is fantastic. Governor Holcomb has been pivotal in making sure that we're focused on skills-based practices, as well as our Indiana Office of Technology has removed credential requirements in their job postings, as well as a collaboration with the Indiana State Department.
Yeah, so you've got a playbook.
Yes.
TechPoint has a playbook when it comes to skills-based hiring. What are some of the things that employers can look at and kind of take away from this playbook?
Yes, our playbook helps to show, well, what are the benefits of taking a skills-based approach? And what are some examples as well? It shows a traditional job posting as well as a skills-based job posting. So tech companies can see, well, what skills should I be considering? And then how can I improve my job postings that I'm putting out on the market?
Yeah, so TechPoint, obviously, you're really focused on the tech industry. This is part of a bigger, I think, approach that you feel can really add to the tech workforce. You think this skills-based hiring concept, if it's adopted by more and more people, can really help fuel the pipeline?
Yes, we must inclusively grow our tech workforce ecosystem. And by making sure that we're taking a skills-based approach, we're opening opportunities for underrepresented groups, people of color and women, so that they are able to be considered more in the tech roles that we have available here in Indiana.
I know Lilly, One America, Cummins among companies that already implement this. So those examples, I guess, can serve as, for lack of a better term, role models for other companies.
Yes, they're fantastic partners in showing the power of what taking a skills-based approach looks like to improve diversity, to reduce time to hire, and to make sure that we're truly giving opportunities to all.
Yeah, talent workforce, certainly top-level challenges for the state of Indiana. Natalie Winsler is a senior manager of career pathways at TechPoint. Natalie, great to have you on the show. We'll talk to you soon.
Yes, thank you, Gary.
All right. Well, after the break, it's Destination Dairy. Why June is the perfect month to hit up these Hoosier hotspots, serving up your favorite creamy frozen treats. Here's what's making news now around Indiana. Well, with warm weather seemingly here to stay, perhaps one of the tastiest ways to stay cool is treating yourself to just about everyone's favorite guilty pleasure, ice cream. Around Indiana reporter Mary Rachel Redmond is here now with more.
Well, June is officially Dairy Month nationwide, and there's no one better or more qualified to talk milk than Heather Tallman of the American Dairy Association of Indiana. I caught up with her via Zoom to get the dish on dairy trends. Yum. That thing says summer like the savory, creamy frozen treat. That is ice cream. In just about every nook and cranny in the state, Tallman tells me you can easily find that special nostalgic place that just seems to hit the sweet spot.
If you're in the Monroe County area, there are two local favorites like the Chocolate Mousse and Jiffy Treat. If you're up in Goshen, Indiana, there's the Chief or everyone's favorite in Upland, which is called Ivanhoe's.
An emerging trend in dairy, individually wrapped and seasoned cheeses and flavored milks.
Different milks that are mint chocolate chip, or in the fall, you could find pumpkin spice milk. You're going to see more trends moving towards individually packaged cheeses, or maybe cheeses that are not what we would necessarily consider traditional flavors, maybe pizza flavored cheese. Here in Indiana, we feel like we're uniquely positioned in the country for dairy processing. We have over 700 farm families across the state. So we produce a lot of dairy in Indiana.
Now to southern Indiana and Clark County, where two cities continue to see unprecedented growth that really started to take off in 2020 during the height of the pandemic. So why are folks flocking to Jeffersonville and Charlestown, especially from just across the river in Louisville?
Everything that was happening with COVID in major metropolitan areas was kind of pushing people out to these areas where they would rather just maybe drive and commute and work in other places, or shifting the job market entirely. I think it's helped people focus more on quality of life. The secret's out that Clark County is really a wonderful place to live, and Charlestown is certainly seeing that happen.
And in Northwest Indiana, the Pokagon Band of Potawatomi Indians says construction of its 23-story hotel in South Bend is on track to finish late this year. The 300-plus room hotel will be connected to the Four Winds Casino. The project also includes 45,000 square feet of additional gaming space that's expected to create close to 400 jobs. For a look at more Hoosier headlines and stories across the state, visit our website at InsideIndianaBusiness.com.
All right, Mary Rachel, thanks. Great stuff. The inaugural Indiana Global Economic Summit put Indiana in the spotlight with CEOs, ambassadors, and thought leaders from around the world. I sat down with Indiana Secretary of Commerce Brad Chambers to get his take on a huge week for the state of Indiana. That's coming up next. Well, the inaugural Indiana Global Economic Summit is in the books, and the Indiana Economic Development Corporation bills it a success. It was held during one of the biggest weeks for economic development in state history. And I sat down with Indiana Secretary of Commerce Brad Chambers at the Convention Center to get his take on the big deals and the importance of this first ever summit.
Gerry, I'm so excited about this week. Obviously, in Indiana, it's been a terrific week economically. And then we bookmarked this great week with another global event, the Indianapolis 500. But to have 30 countries fly from all over the world to visit us in Indiana, to deepen our friendships, for the betterment of our economy and just our relationships generally, the engagement from our international friends has been just unbelievable.
Yeah. Let's talk about this week and two big announcements, huge announcements. One in Kokomo with Stellantis and Samsung SDI, $2.1 billion, at least to start out,
right.
1,400 jobs.
Right.
Into the electric vehicle market in a big way.
Right.
How significant, beyond the obvious, is that announcement?
Right. Well, I mean, when I started last July, we came out very clearly with a 5-point strategy for the future of Indiana's economy, and two of those 5 E's were building an economy of the future and leaning into sustainability and the energy transition. And I don't think there's a better bullseye than Stellantis and Samsung joint venturing to build EV batteries in the state of Indiana in taking advantage of Indiana's advanced manufacturing DNA. I mean, we just build things in Indiana, and we're building things for the future now, especially with that investment.
As you look at electric vehicles in that market, obviously we're seeing a lot of substantial investment around the country. There will be more, no doubt. How confident are you that Indiana can continue to grab a share of that big market?
I've set high and aspirational goals. I want to not just participate in the energy transition. I think Indiana can literally lead in the energy transition. I mean, there's a statistic that not many people know, but we are 4th in the United States of America for the production of clean energy. And our coal consumption is down from in the 70s and 80s below 50%. So our fossil fuel reduction is going on. So we're gaining. We're like an Indy car. We are coming out of the pits, and we're really gaining speed in that.
Okay, you followed up that big announcement with another big announcement. Lilly and Company announcing not one but two manufacturing plants, the new innovation park in Boone County, Lebanon, 500 jobs, high-paying jobs. Talk about the impact of an investment like that from anyone is huge, but to have it come from the marquee company like Lilly, I think is maybe extra special.
Oh my gosh, it is extra special. I mean, you know, Lilly is such an important, you know, and I used a story the other day that Lilly's a story of entrepreneurship as well as it is global leadership. It's one of the 25 most valuable companies in the world. And so it is also a global company. So it really leverages on the investment we're making in this global summit. But to have Lilly say, we want to invest $2.1 billion in central Indiana for the growth of our company in the next 10, 20, 30 years, as Dave Rick said, we just couldn't be more proud and more fortunate. And it's a testament to Lilly's commitment to Indiana, short-term, medium-term, and long-term, but it's also a testament to Indiana and what we can offer Lilly. They're smart folks, and they're going to go what's the best investment for Lilly, and so they made the decision that Indiana is that highest return for this investment.
Certainly these two big announcements getting the headlines, but an even bigger story is kind of that bigger picture investment story that's taking place in 2022.
We have blown $8.3 billion of CapEx for 21 out of the water, and we're only 5 months in.
Yeah.
So it's and it's just it's the testament to the state's environment. It's a testament to our team, and it's a testament to shooting higher and being aspirational for our state and believing in our product.
Back to the wages, because that has been a big issue here in Indiana for a long time.
Yeah.
Certainly an announcement like Lilly is going to help that in a big way.
Right.
The bigger picture, do you feel good about where that average wage is headed in Indiana?
On average, it's 20% higher than last year, and last year it was even higher. So I'm super excited about where the wages are heading, and it's because we're focused on going to get the industries we want, not just accept the industries we get. We're being very focused on how we grow our economy strategically, and the wages that come with those jobs and those industries. We're trying to curate an economy in the next 20 or 30 years to lift people up economically, and it's working. I mean, this week and this year is a testament to having a plan and working the plan.
Beautiful, Bean. Well, for highlights of the summit and to read more about the big deals, head to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Fishers-based medical device technology startup Recovery Force Health is launching a flagship therapeutic mobility device. In the business of health, learn more about the blood clot prevention and mobility measurement tool that is now part of a multi-year collaboration with Mayo Clinic Ventures.
A first-of-its-kind innovation preventing blood clots in at-risk patients. The Hamilton County startup behind it, and why it could be a difference maker in healthcare. Plus, teaching the next generation of Hoosier students how to run a company. Learn about IU East's unique BOSS program.
It's Tennessee on the dive!
And one of the best in the business breaks down the future of college sports. Mike DeCourcy on name, image, and likeness, and other changes at the NCAA. The second half hour of Inside Indiana Business is next.
Well, a Fishers-based startup says its medical device is ready for prime time. Recovery Force Health commercially launched its flagship product called the MAC system just days ago at a national healthcare convention. Business of Health reporter Kylie Valletta has more. Kylie.
Thank you, Gary. The MAC system delivers what's called mechanical prophylaxis. These are intermittent compressions on the legs that increase blood flow to prevent clots after a surgery, for example. Any person that's been bedridden in the hospital will be familiar with traditional compression devices. They're cuffs worn under the knee, connected by hoses to a machine that powers them. Recovery Force says the MAC system is different and poised to disrupt the market with its modern version of this hospital staple. Recovery Force Health President Jason Bobe joins me now to tell us more. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Congratulations on the product launch. I know this has been a long time coming. So let's just dive right in. Tell us, what is the MAC system and how is it so different than what folks are used to seeing in the hospital?
Sure. So the MAC system is a portable, non-pneumatic device that doesn't have cords or tubes like the standard of care does, and allows the patient to get up and move inside the hospital. Those other devices have been around for 30, 40 years with no innovation. So they were designed for bed rest, where ours was built for mobility.
And so let's talk about that mobility piece just a little bit more. It's a really big deal, a big feature of your product. And you said sometimes when people are in the hospital, they almost feel stuck in bed. So explain just a little bit more on the mobility piece of your product.
Yeah, you'd be surprised when you go to the hospital, 95% of a patient's day is often laying in bed. And that's something that we're trying to change and help the caregivers. So we give them the squeeze, the compression when they need it, when they are bedbound and can't get out of bed. And then when they are able to get out of bed, we're able to get them up a lot easier because our device tracks similar to a Fitbit, but for a healthcare patient. So it allows them to get up and get around a lot easier.
And I like how on the device you can actually see the feedback. The doctors and nurses can see it, but the patient can see on the device too how many steps they've taken, et cetera.
Yes, you can go into a patient's room without ever meeting them and tell them exactly what they've been up to over the last 24 to 48 hours. It's really neat.
All right, let's talk about this national convention you just got back from. It really, we had FDA approval about a year ago, so this was really kind of the big unveiling for your company. So tell us about the convention and why it was so important.
Yeah, this is our coming out party. It was exciting, and it was our commercial launch, and we did our alpha and beta testing for the last year. And what that did was allow us to optimize it and get it ready for a national scale. And so we went to Houston 2 weeks ago and had a phenomenal showing, tons of leads that we got out of it, and a lot of nurses trying on the device and really seeing what it's all about, because nobody knows who we are. So that's our ability to get out the brand and also about the product.
All right, and you're such a great Indiana story. Obviously, you're based here. You've been working with hospitals here to develop it and perfect it. You're manufacturing here. Talk a little bit just about the hospitals, that segment, and also manufacturing here.
Yeah, we're excited. I mean, it's right here in Indiana. Central Indiana is where we call home. We've grown our team by over 50% in the last couple of years, and intend to do that even more as we grow. And we're partnering with local hospitals. So IU Health just completed a great study design and had awesome results with our device and looking to publish here in the near term. And then community hospitals looking to bring us on board as well, starting next month. So a lot of great things going on for the company.
And manufacturing right there in Noblesville as well,
Yes,
correct?
absolutely. So we have our contract manufacturer in
I just
Fortville.
said Noblesville. It's actually
It's
Fishers,
It's
right?
Fishers, yeah, okay. That's okay. We have some assembly in Fishers and then some contract manufacturing going on in Fortville. So all within 10 minutes away from each other.
All right, very good. And I like it. You said your target market is anyone in a hospital bed.
That's right. Anyone that goes to the hospital that's going to be bedbound for long term. Obviously, the critical care patient's a big deal for us, cardiovascular, neuro, and trauma. But any patient that's going to lay in bed over 95% of the day potentially is a candidate for our device.
All right, very good. Well, congratulations on the commercial launch and keep us posted.
Thank you very much.
That made me choose IU East was I felt so at home. I felt like family already, and I felt like it was my school, and I was so excited.
The legendary Venus Williams, one of the greatest to ever hit a tennis ball, 7 Grand Slam titles, including 5 at Wimbledon, on why she chose IU East to earn her bachelor's in business administration. Williams says her experience at IU East gave her the wings to fly in the business world once she left tennis. University also cranking out the next generation of business leaders through a unique program called BOSS. It stands for Business Opportunities for Self-Starters. And for more on what BOSS is all about, I'm joined by IU East Professor Tim Scales and a recent IU East graduate, Cole Fosbrink. And gentlemen, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Gary.
Tim, you were the founder. You created the BOSS program 15 years ago, and we were talking. This was only going to be a 2-year program. It's 15 years old. You've connected with thousands of students.
That's correct, Gary. So 15 years ago, I was challenged by the state of Indiana to create this program. It would be for high school students. 2 years, 160 students. And at the end of 2 years, then hopefully we could sustain it, but we weren't sure. And so that was my goal.
Yeah.
And 15 years later, we're sitting at the table because we have been able to sustain it. And you're correct, just right over 5,000 students have gone through the program.
What's been the impact? Because entrepreneurship is a lot of people talk about it, such a, in my view, a necessary thing in our state. What's been the impact in your view of the BOSS program?
Well, it's been interesting because it's given a lot of students the opportunity to dream and think bigger than what they had before. Several of those students have started businesses, mostly start small and grow big.
Yeah.
But 15 years ago, it might have just been 1 or 2 small businesses. Today, they're much larger businesses that are coming out of it. So it takes time for entrepreneurship to grow. But it's just been amazing the opportunities the students have taken advantage of through the program. Sometimes they started a small business on the side. Other times it became their full career.
Yeah.
And so I'm proud of those students.
Yeah. Another program you started, the CEO program, Cash Equals Opportunities. And Cole, I know you're a participant, leader of that program, teaching financial literacy. Talk about the CEO program.
Yeah, so we had noticed that not much financial literacy was being taught in high schools and education at that level. So we just started a program, myself and 2 other students, to create a curriculum that just teaches financial literacy and personal finance to high school kids.
What have you seen as the impact of that and connecting with young people on these some basic skills that are so important, once they get out into the real world, if you will?
Yeah, a big impact has been being asked to come back into the schools. The kids, they of course take all that knowledge with them, and the teachers as well love it. They ask us to come back and keep teaching their kids that stuff.
Now, you just started a job, just graduated, just started a job at a bank in Richmond. Your aspirations career-wise?
Well, part of the reason it's called the CEO program is because that's what we eventually want it to be. And so that is the goal in life.
Good, I like that. Now, Tim, 15 years, you've had great impact, but you're not stopping, you're not slowing down.
Not at all.
You got big plans for the BOSS program to take it on a statewide basis.
I do indeed, because this year we just finished a 2-week pilot at the IU East campus. And the pilot program is the BOSS experience. And that was with graduate students, so students who recently graduated from the college. And so now we've tried that, and it worked very, very well. So next year, I want to take the pilot program from this year, take it statewide. So I would love next year to see every IU campus involved in the BOSS experience. And then after that, we'll see where it goes across the state. But next year, for sure, all IU campuses.
Well, it is a program having big impact, the BOSS program. And Tim Scales, thanks for joining us. Thanks for creating this program, and good luck with this, the program going forward. Cole Fosbrink, good luck to you. You're fresh out of college. I think you're destined for some great things as well. Thank you both.
Thanks, Gary.
All right. Well, tourism officials in Terre Haute are optimistic the number of visitors to the Vigo County city will continue to grow as the recovery from the pandemic continues. That then boosting tax revenue. Our partners at WTHI TV report more than $360,000 was collected last year via the city's 8% innkeeper's tax. David Patterson is the executive director of the Terre Haute Convention and Visitors Bureau. He says that number is already at $474,000. He adds the new Terre Haute Convention Center should bring additional visitors for years to come as the venue attracts statewide association events. Coming up next, fallout from the NCAA's name, image, and likeness policy, its impact on college sports, and what could happen next. We get sporting news, columnist Mike DeCourcy's take when we come back. Well, it would seem that chaos is now occupying offices at the Indianapolis-based headquarters of the National Collegiate Athletic Association. But one keen observer believes that ultimately some semblance of normalcy will emerge at the highest levels of intercollegiate athletics. Bill Benner has more in this week's Inside Indiana Sports. Bill.
Gary, thanks. The implementation of name, image, and likeness benefits for athletes and the well-traveled transfer portal have caused, in the minds of some, havoc for the NCAA and its major institutions. And it may have provided the impetus for the resignation of NCAA President Mark Emmert. But here to place it all in perspective and offer hope that reason will prevail is Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News and the Big Ten Network. And Mike, welcome back to the program. About 3 weeks ago, as all this was unfolding, you wrote a column in the Sporting News that said, hey, it's all going to be okay. But, you know, we got Nick Saban and Jimbo Fisher, they're firing at each other. We got $800,000 transfers. We got booster consortiums. Please help me to think that it's going to be okay, okay?
Well, it will be different. There's no question. We're going to see a lot of significant changes. The NCAA has a transformation committee that's going on now that was supposed to be done in time for football season, basically. Probably not going to finish their work on schedule, but so it's going to change. And every single person that I either talk to or is involved in college football thinks that ultimately high major football will separate in some way from the NCAA. I don't really know what they get out of that, but that's the plan. They're going to, in some way, move that operation out of the NCAA's purview. So there are going to be significant changes, but fundamentally, there's still this really popular enterprise known as college athletics that benefits so many and that so many appreciate. And so I think that we'll find a way to make this work.
Well, and you mentioned the fact that will the NCAA, again, if the power conferences break away, will the NCAA survive with a basketball Division I basketball tournament so important here in Indianapolis? Is it going to be okay?
Yeah, I don't think that the big schools are going to break away. I think they're going to take the football operation. Remember, right now, the NCAA has very little to do with high major football. It does make the game rules, and it does make the eligibility rules, but it doesn't have anything to do with the championship playoff. So taking that away, it does some structural things, and as I said, I think it's going to increase the burden on those schools more than they imagine, but it doesn't really change the fundamental structure of how the NCAA is operating now. They do all the other championships, including the one you mentioned, the NCAA Men's Basketball Championship and Final Four, which is so lucrative to everyone involved. And I think that every smart person I talk to in regards to this understands you can't recreate the NCAA tournament in any other way. You take it and just make it a high major event, and its value plummets. I saw a chart today of the top 100 television programs in America a year ago, and there were like about 90 football games in terms of NFL and college, and there were some political things and some Olympic things, and there were like 4 NCAA men's basketball tournament games. There were no NBA. That's how popular the NCAA tournament is, so I don't think that's going anywhere.
Quickly, as we wrap up, Mark Emmert has left. Who might be next for the NCAA?
Could be anywhere, and I think that part of that comes to what will the association be when he or she takes over that, because again, taking the football out changes it. So who is going to want the job? How lucrative will it be? What will the mission be? And for that reason, they have to understand what the NCAA is going to be before they understand who they need to fill the spot.
But Mike, finally, we're going to be okay?
We are.
Going to be okay?
I think we'll be. They're going to have to find a way to get name, image, and likeness right, and they're going to have, and that may take congressional action. And the transfer portal thing, I think, is just going to have to work itself out. People are just going to have to calm down. They were passing out those waivers all those years, and now you have automatic eligibility. I think they'll get used to it. It's not the best thing necessarily for the athlete, but I think in some ways it's been good for the games.
All right. Well, Mike DeCourcy of the Sporting News, always look forward to your insights, and I hope it's going to be okay. Gerry, back to you.
All right, Bill, thank you. Well, the NCAA's name, image, and likeness policy is an issue certainly at Ball State University, one that the director of athletics there, Beth Goetz, has spent a considerable amount of time navigating. She's my guest on the next edition of the Business and Beyond podcast. Goetz is a Missouri native, knows what it's like to compete in college sports. She played soccer at Clemson. Goetz has been on the job at Ball State for about 4 years now and says the university supports student athletes being able to build their brands, but does have some concerns about NIL.
We sort of fumbled into the space and some guardrails now about that would help us define how this was truly intended, as opposed to it being an inducement, and to try to stay away from pay for play is really what you're trying to capture, if you can. And the genie sort of got out of the bottle, and now you're trying to roll it back in and add some guidance. And I think that's going to be really challenging.
Much more with Ball State Director of Athletics Beth Goetz on the next Business and Beyond podcast. To check out all of our podcasts, go to InsideIndianaBusiness.com. Well, in a week, Garfield Park will host the new Wonder Road Music Festival. But will it succeed where others have failed? Let's check in now with IBJ reporter Dave Lindquist for more on that. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Gary. Good to see you.
Absolutely. Okay, we were talking off camera. Music festivals in Indianapolis, Central Indiana, have a bit of a spotty history, right?
Over the past 2 decades, more than a handful have debuted and disappeared for probably different reasons the organizers would tell you. But I think the bottom line is if enough people buy tickets, that festival is going to stick around.
Yeah. Okay, Wonder Road, Garfield Park, June 11 and 12. A lot of interest, anticipation for this, and the promoters there say this is going to be a success. Tell us about Wonder Road and why it can be potentially that success they talk about.
So the primary organizer of Wonder Road is a Cleveland company called Elevation Festivals, who have a couple of festivals, one in Columbus and one in Cleveland, that have a good thing going over the past few years, pandemic notwithstanding. And they've partnered with MOKB Presents, a well-known name in concert promotion independently here in Indianapolis, and they say they're within striking distance of a sellout. So that'd be maybe 15,000 people in the park over 2 days.
Wow, that would be interesting to see. There's another music festival too, All In, right? It's going to be at the Indiana State Fairgrounds.
Yeah, they arrived in bunches, at least 2 this summer. The All In Festival is going to be Labor Day weekend at the Indiana State Fair. A couple of very prominent names in Indiana music history are 2 of the organizers of that one, Steve Sebesma and Dave Lucas, who were the co-owners of Sunshine Promotions back in the day. They're the gentlemen who built Deer Creek, now Ruoff Music Center, and they revamped Old National Center. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Very good. Music festivals returning to Indianapolis, and Dave Lindquist, I know you will be all over it and have a lot of great content in the IBJ. Thanks for joining us. Have a great weekend.
I'm ready. Thank you.
All right. Well, Illinois-based Meats by Lens is celebrating the groundbreaking of its 120,000 square foot meat packing facility in Hammond. The meat processor announced plans earlier this month for that big project, which is expected to bring more than 300 jobs to that city. The company investing $35 million in the plant, which will be built on vacant land at the former Queen Anne Candy site in Hammond. The city says that facility expected to open late next year. Well, up next, our insiders weigh in on some of the big stories making headlines this week, including the big business boom in Boone County as Lilly plans to invest more than $2 billion to build 2 manufacturing plants there. Well, the month of May ended with a bang for business in Indiana. More than $4 billion in economic development projects announced heading into race weekend as the state hosted its first ever Global Economic Summit. Time now for a deeper dive into all things business in our Insiders segment this week. And this week, pleased to be joined by the Vice President for Economic Development for the Indy Chamber, Portia Bailey-Bernard, Marian University Senior Vice President of Strategic Growth and Innovation, Kenneth Britt, and Bose Public Affairs Group Principal Roger Harvey. And welcome one and all to the Insiders this week. A lot of news to talk about. Growth really on the docket, including population growth. I think a lot of areas around Indiana losing population, but if you look at the fastest growing areas, Westfield continues to be, Portia, the fastest growing community in the state of Indiana. A lot of action happening there.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing, but my initial reaction to all of it is, where are these people going to live?
Right.
I can speak to only Indianapolis, but we're experiencing a housing crisis here in our community, just like a bunch of cities across the country. For our downtown, for example, multifamily occupancy is above 93%.
Wow.
Just a few years ago, people were saying, we're building too many apartments, we're building too many apartments. Now we can't have enough apartments.
Right.
I mean, we really truly need a diversity in all of our housing, single family, multifamily, affordable, and market.
Is there an answer? It would probably take a half an hour to answer that.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, Mayor HODGES said an administration last month announced an affordable housing plan, which put leveraged federal dollars to go towards anti-displacement programs, as well as the creation of more affordable housing. To that point, we just encourage our developers in our community, we just need more housing.
Yeah.
And I would just add to that, going back to Westfield, Hamilton County for a number of years has been one of the fastest growing counties in the country. Right. And so Westfield, was most recently a town when you look at the other big cities in Hamilton County. They have grown tremendously under one mayor. This is under Mayor Andy Cook. They made that transition from town to city, and now you're going to start hearing a lot of talk and conversation about changing Westfield to a second-class city. Westfield's one of two cities in the state that's not second-class, and that brings a host of benefits that larger cities have with a controller and so forth. So that's where you're going to see Westfield headed.
That's an interesting point. Boone County, now the fastest-growing county in the state. And Roger, I know, and full disclosure, I think Lilly may be a client of yours, but that announcement, 2 manufacturing plants, 500 high-paying jobs, adds on to some things already going on there now. A lot happening in Lebanon and Boone County.
Absolutely, and I think the Lebanon mayor said it best, and Boone County said it best. This is the largest investment ever we've seen in Boone County. And what people don't realize about this manufacturing, these 2 plants, is that the indirect jobs will be several thousand. These are vendors, people that are working in those facilities day in and day out. And then you also have construction jobs, over 1,500 of them, plus 500 high-paying jobs. And it just is a testament to what Lilly means to central Indiana and the state of Indiana, quite frankly.
Those indirect jobs are going to be really important, right? The high-paying jobs are great. The investment that Lilly made in North Carolina, those jobs, if we're keeping track, was averaging $70,000. We got the $100,000 plus jobs, but those indirect jobs are going to be really, really critical. It's interesting that this investment comes on the heels of Dave Rick's presentation to the Indiana Economic Club, and how we are really proud of this investment. Exciting opportunity, but there's so much more that we need to do to make investments in education, to improve education outcomes for all, and the health outcomes. Those disparities have to be addressed if we're going to continue to see investments like this going forward.
People talk about the potential for a research triangle type situation from Purdue down to Boone County, the airport, Indianapolis, obviously. Is that a realistic expectation?
Absolutely. I mean, you have Purdue, which is a major Research One university, great leadership there. You have universities here in the city, both public and private. Marion University starting the engineering school that's opening. So there's so much opportunity here that if we can focus on our neighborhoods, getting students of color, those who haven't been part of those STEM fields like Dave Ricks talked about, we have to start early, and there's a great opportunity for us to do so.
Big economic development announcement in Northwest Indiana. Meets by Lynn's coming from Chicago, breaking ground on a major new facility there. $35 million investment, 300 jobs. What I thought was interesting, Portia, about back to the population, is Lake County gaining some population. So I know there have been a number of efforts in that part of the state to attract people to come across from Illinois, live and grow in Indiana and work in downtown Chicago.
I mean, what they're doing, those efforts in marketing to bring folks to that community is great. I had no idea until I saw that study that they were growing as fast as they were, but I mean, the quality of life, that's how you attract talent and folks to your community. So, I mean, kudos to them on that expansion.
Yeah, Roger, what do you think about that strategy? I think it's interesting and seems to be working. Now, this transformational 2 projects with the South Shore Rail Line expansion and making that trip to downtown Chicago much easier, much better. It seems to be they're positioned for more growth, possibly.
Right, I think it's just the latest example of what you're seeing from a regional perspective, and this goes back to several years ago when the IEDC gave away those regional grant dollars, is that everybody's finding their uniqueness, right? And so, while the governor is selling the state, if you will, to companies to come here, it's up to each individual region to find their uniqueness, and that's what you're seeing there, and the benefits paying off getting that company to move.
I want to get everybody's take on the Indy 500. It seemed as though the buzz was back. The fans were back, obviously, big crowd. Roger, I'll start with you. Your take on the 500.
I think it was wonderful. I mean, you look at the rookie drivers. They're talking about how great it is to have Roger Penske, you know, in ownership of it. And for Roger Penske, it was the first opportunity since he bought that facility that he could show it off
see it,
and show off all the investments, everything from the golf course to the restrooms to the stands, the monitors, everything, and weather couldn't have been better.
Yeah, Portia, I know you were there. I saw your social media post with your handsome family.
Yeah, I got to bring my 1.5-year-old daughter out to the track, and she loved every moment of it. But Indy 500 is a huge economic driver for our city and state. The Indy 500 alone, not the entire season, just the 500, generates roughly $350 to $400 million.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's amazing. And from an economic development perspective, when you want to host and bring companies internationally to our state to move here, I mean, there's nothing better than bringing them to the track and showcasing our state.
Greatest spectacle in racing, right? I mean,
great way to end it. We're out of time. Greatest spectacle in racing. Couldn't put it better. Thanks for joining us this week. I'm Gerry Dick. Go out and make it a successful week.